if you answer your interview questions like this, you will stand out and probably land the position. Hello and welcome to another YouTube video. I'm actually going to start an interview series going over different questions that are going to come up in your remote closing interviews, how to answer them that is going to, in most cases, align with what the interviewer is looking for and help you stand out amongst the group. Whether it's a group interview, a one-on-one interview, this stuff is going to help you. So the first one I wanted to talk about in this video, we'll jump right into it, is that question, what are your weaknesses? Now, working with hundreds of sales professionals, this is one that people have often struggled with. And, working with business owners, this is kind of what I've seen that they're looking for when they ask this question, at least if they're a good leader, right? Now, a lot of people, what they tend to do with this question is kind of give some fake weakness that's not really a weakness because they don't want to look bad in front of the interviewer. And if this is what the business owner is actually looking for, if you answer this way and they like it and they say, oh yeah, congratulations, you work too hard that you reject all other things and pleasures to sacrifice your blood and sweat for the company, and sometimes you need to learn to know when to turn off work. Like, if they want an answer like that, the leadership is probably not the best. They're probably not very, very good. So that'd be quite a bit of a red flag. So this is mainly for the people who are great leaders that are actually looking for how to properly grow their team, how they can pour into their team to ensure that they're, growing the company and their team members are actually improving and getting better. So from what I've seen from good leaders, why they ask this question is because, one, they're looking for awareness. They want to know that you are self-aware. They don't want to hear that you struggle with this question, because if I ask you what your weakness is and you say, I don't know, or you take long, or you don't give me a real one, I know that it's something you haven't actually spent time thinking of. Therefore, you're not very self-aware. And if you're not aware of your weaknesses, you're not prone to growth and improvement. Sales is a game of constant growth. It's a game of constant improvement. It's a lot like sports in that way, where the people that are the best and get paid the most are the people that treat it like a pro athlete. And what do pro athletes do? They're constantly practicing. They're constantly getting better. They're constantly refining what they're good at and fixing what they're weak in, right? So if you're the type of person who's not even self-aware enough to understand or know where your weaknesses are, then I probably don't want you on the team, and most people don't as well if they're, again, a good leader. So they're looking for self-awareness and they're looking for a willingness to improve. So the best way that I've found that you could answer this question is by, one, displaying a real weakness. Now, obviously, when we say display a real weakness, you want it to be a weakness that you actually have, but at the same time, don't make it such a weakness that it makes them turned off of working with you, because there is still that negative to look out for. So for example, if I'm going to hire a sales professional as a closer, if I'm going to help that person, if I'm going to, bring that person on the team to close deals for my company, and they say their biggest weakness is closing, I always fumble up the pitch, I suck at handling objections, like those are my biggest weaknesses, I'm probably not going to want to hire that person, right? Because although they were honest, it's like it's too big of a weakness and too much for me to have to overcome bringing someone new onto the team, right? So again, they're asking this question because they're like, okay, what do I need to work with this person on right away to make sure they're where they need to be, right? So they're looking for self-awareness, looking for willingness to improve, and they're looking for, where can I step in and where should I focus first? What should be the first focus area with this person to make them a rock star on the team and make sure they ramp up really, really quickly? So if you go ahead and say something that's such a burden or such a big thing for them to work on with you, that's when it's going to have the negative effect of them not wanting to bring you on board. So when you're saying a real weakness, you want it to be something real, but also something that's not a big detriment to your role. And I'll give an example at the end of this, at the end of this 3-step formula here. But the formula is real weakness. Once you've said the real weakness, don't leave it there. Show your willingness to improve. Show your awareness of not only what the weakness is, but your attempts and willingness to combat it. So real weakness. Second step is how you've combated it or how you've attempted to combat it so far. And lastly is the results you've had thus far. Because sales, in order to improve in sales and get good and bring your close rate from 10% to 20%, from 20% to 30, from 30 to 40 and beyond, you have to be the type of person who is good with data. What does that mean? You have to be testing things, split testing, taking what works, throwing out what doesn't. So if you can show that, if you can demonstrate that, I know that you're someone who is a self-learner, someone that's going to grow and be a low maintenance part of the team, especially over the long term. As you start to iterate and learn about things, you'll probably end up being a top performer, right? So I want to see that you're someone who can identify the weakness, make a plan on how you're going to combat it, but then after you've made the plan and you've implemented the plan, look at the results and say, okay, this plan is working or it's not working. We either need to change the plan or we need to continue the course to better improvement over time. So that's the 3-step formula. And an example of how I would say this, like, let's say if I was in a closer interview, I was getting hired as a closer, and let's say the company's main source of deals and leads came from their funnel, their VSL funnel, which stands for video sales letter, meaning that leads, they're running advertisements to a landing page, to a website that is collecting their information, showing them a video, and then based on that video, it's either selling them the opportunity to book an appointment or buy something or download something. So typically what happens is they're watching the video and that video is telling them to book an appointment. They book an appointment and that appointment's now on my calendar as a closer. So if I'm applying for a job that has that kind of process, meaning they don't rely heavily on, cold calling or referrals or anything like that, they have a lot of inbound traffic. They can fill the calendar easily with a webinar or VSL funnel. Let's say I wanted to work on referrals. That was my weakness. That would be a fine weakness because the company can bring you in, help you work on your referral game, but at the end of the day, it's not a detriment to your role. Like if you can jump on the team, close at 30, 40%, 25% plus as a closer right off the gate, right off of the VSL, great. They love you. You're having a good time. You're making good money. They're keeping you on the team. Awesome. The referral side of things is something they can help you work on, but it's not something that's going to be so dire that it's like, oh man, we can't even hire this person because they just aren't good at what we need them to be good at in order to be a profitable member of the team. So let's say if I was making the weakness about referrals, I might say something like, when they ask me, so what are your weaknesses? I might say, honestly, one of the biggest weaknesses I have right now that I'm really working on is maximizing referrals. When it comes down to it, I've, seen that I don't get as many referrals as I'd like to. And, how I've kind of combated that over the last few months or so is I've been making sure to speak with every single prospect I close about it. And I've made sure to continue the relationship after the close so that as soon as they get more, like they get a win in the community after they've, utilized the service, as soon as they're like on that high, I can, ask them for some introductions and land some more referrals for myself and for the company. And, I've been able to add so far about an extra $20,000 to $30,000 a month in cash collected. But I'd really love to learn how to go about increasing that skill set so I can, obviously bring in more commission for myself without necessarily relying on the lead flow that the company has to offer. So if you were to respond to the question like that, it would probably be a lot more interesting to the interviewer and they would probably be a lot more willing to bring you on board than this person who's like, oh, good question. Weaknesses. I don't know. That's a good one. Or the person who said, weaknesses. I guess I procrastinate sometimes. Yeah, that's my weakness. Or even the person who said the same weakness and they said, my weakness, I would say it's getting referrals. And they just left it at that, right? The first way I responded to it shows your awareness and your level of depth in it, shows your willingness to improve and your understanding of how to take data, analyze it, and iterate upon it. So answer, what are your weaknesses like that? And I promise you, you will land a lot more roles. The people that are going through my interview training are landing roles easily. They're passing interviews, they're getting offers. And this is one of the things I go through in that training is how to answer interview questions with this big one. What are your weaknesses? I am going to be posting an interview series just here on YouTube where I walk through just a ton of questions like this. If you want to see more of it, and I should continue this series, comment down below so I know, leave a like on this video so I know, subscribe so I know. Also, if you want all of my training on interviews, all of my training on sales, all of my training on job sourcing, everything that has to do with remote closing, you can jump into Closer College. There's a link down below where you can join for free. You can get a completely free trial for 30 days. And even after that, it's only a subscription community. You're going to get all of my training, course material, a community of people to work with, network with, do interview mocks, practice, pitch with, everything like that, as well as 3+, I think 4 now, weekly group training calls where you can get calls reviewed, get stuff reviewed, ask questions. We have an accountability call every week now as well, where we, break down the numbers and talk about our goals. Awesome community what we're building there, and the value is insane for what the subscription is. Click the link down below and check it out. Other than that, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.